Even as Tesla makes great leaps forward in robotaxi and Optimus, there's still a number of haters. The good news is the number of people who are finally understanding the company is growing even more. The ex-CEO of Stellantis, Carlos Tavares, in a new interview said, Tesla may exit the car industry and may not exist in 10 years. He says Tesla's stock market loss will be colossal. Elon Musk responded by saying Carlos has absolutely no clue. Plus, the product chief for GM, who was a former Tesla Autopilot lead, made comments touting GM's Super Cruise, saying how much safer it is than Tesla's. Let's listen to this very delusional video. On the good news, we have a number of institutional analysts now making massive races to their price targets. Pierre Ferragu of New Street raised his price target to $520 from $465 after he tried FSD version 14. Morgan Stanley's Adam Jonas said, Tesla's robotaxi seems to be getting solved faster than nearly anyone thought. He said, quote, I'm calling it, autonomous cars are solved, unquote. Cantor Fitzgerald raised a whopping $155 to now $510, and Daiwa Capital is now at $420. Jeff Lutz is with us. He's a multi-decade supply chain executive and chief quality officer. He's now CEO of his own supply chain consulting firm. So welcome, Jeff. What do you think?
Yeah, looks like there's, on both sides of the conversation, there's increasing intensity. And that's what's going to happen as full self-driving works for everybody. You're going to now hear the analysts choir come right behind it. And all these analysts are certainly trying it now and driving it. And you're also going to see more announcements, just like you saw it when Tesla was starting to really, when the Model 3 was taking off and their EVs were taking off in real volume. All the car makers came out and said, hey, we have these too. And here's our PowerPoint presentation that shows we have EVs and we're going to dominate the middle of the decade. Yes. And we remember how that turned out. So this is the same kind of thing that's going to be happening with autonomy. We all have autonomy. It's just you haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I remember all of those headlines. The next Tesla killer, the Tesla killer, watch out, right? I remember that now. Yeah, so many of them. And you're right. The intensity rises when it's basically, when Tesla solved the problem, they need to protect themselves. And your comment about FSD, we have FSD as well. We're going to cover the GM product manager. He did exactly what you're saying. We'll show that. So one of our favorites is Stellantis CEO, ex-CEO of Stellantis. His name is Carlos Tavares. He had a tenure at GM. I'm sorry, what is Stellantis? From 2021 to 2024. That's very recent. He just got let go now. So he returned negative 21% for that stock. But look what he said. He said, Tesla could exit the car industry and may not exist in 10 years. Tesla's stock market value loss will be colossal. Unbelievable that he can make these statements.
I thought it was an autobiography he was writing. He's like, I could exit the car industry. I have exited the car industry. And my stock market value loss has been colossal over my tenure. It sounded more autobiographical. Are we sure that the editors just didn't get a hold of it and turn it into a non-Tesla article and was really Carlos's autobiography?
Well, that's a good point. I mean, here's what Elon said to him. Elon replied saying he has absolutely no clue. I mean, how can people like this even say this with a straight face? I just don't understand that. But
well, he'll get booked on the 5 or 6 different networks. And again, you can say anything about Tesla, anything negative. You get those two together, you're going to get booked left and right. So good luck on your speaking tour.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Okay, so that is about cars, which is weird. Some reason he thinks the #1 best-selling vehicle in the world, in terms of actually #1 best-selling vehicle in the world, not just EVs, all vehicles. It's the Model Y. He's able to say that and then Tesla just reported, profits, cash flow positive, 41 billions of cash. I don't know. Okay. People will say this, whatever. But this one's interesting, very interesting. He said, this is the product chief for GM. And his name is Sterling Anderson. He was formerly Tesla's Autopilot lead, apparently. And he said GM Super Cruise debuted in 2018. Since then, GM has accumulated 750 miles in 7 years. Nick Cruz, Batain is the one saying this. Meanwhile, for comparison, Tesla accumulated 750 miles on FSD in approximately 53 days in Q3. So let's listen to what he said here.
You ever perceive that it's holding you back?
Our customers have driven over 700 million hands-free miles with Super Cruise without a single accident attributed to the technology. I led autopilot. You can't say that for autopilot. The stereotypical view that I think has been expressed of, a traditional automaker super focused on safety might suggest we are sitting still and just putting out vehicles with great airbags, seatbelts, and crumple zones, and we're good with that. I think the reality is far different for GM. This is a long-term play, right? We build trust with customers by delivering safe products. In the autonomy space, look at every company that's had a major incident that could be attributed to that company. How'd it go for them afterwards? Right? They might have gotten there quicker, but it didn't go well once the public lost trust. We have earned that. We'll retain it, and we're going to build on it.
And what do you think about that, Jeff? He's basically saying that the reason we're slow is because it's about safety. And Super Cruise is really just on highways. It's got all these limitations to it, but we're doing it because we don't want to have any accidents. But we're moving forward as faster than our FSD.
Well,
is
he
going to
worked
be,
at Tesla
in trouble.
almost 10 years ago was when he left. He worked on the original autopilot where we got on, our P85D, P90D Model S or Model X back then. That's what he worked on. Tesla's made 3 or 4 major architecture changes with, the end-to-end being so that software isn't in cars anymore. Of what he's talking, he should probably say that too in the interview. It's almost like it's like purposefully deceitful to say that I worked on autopilot. Well, that's the 9-year-old software package. There's brand new software that's out there now. Again, several architecture changes. 1, and then 2, he starts talking about companies that have had a serious incident and what happens with the public trust. What happened at GM and Cruise? Cruise is in the word Super Cruise, and they deprecated that their robotaxi. And he's talking about, well, what happens to companies when allegedly somebody was dragged under a car, allegedly, I don't know, and this is documented. And the word that robot was called Cruise, and now the tech he's launching, it's called Super Cruise. So when he's talking about trying to tie brand to incidents, there was a major incident. They closed that division. So I don't understand actually the connection. And you can sound as confident as you want in an interview, but if you want to distinguish your product, talk about your product and why it's better on the metrics. Because right now, that product doesn't have the same scope and value to consumers that FSD, self-driving, has on a Tesla to consumers. Their product is basically driving straight on it's cruise control with a little bit more with lane changing capability. And you shouldn't have any accidents with
cruise control.
with cruise control with lane changing capability.
Yeah.
So again, I don't want to be overly critical, but maybe it's warranted because it feels like there's a lot of information. And by the way, the interviewer in that, he should have asked follow-ups on this of like, well, you worked on it. It was 9 years ago. They have a new architecture now. What do you think of the new architecture? And how is Cruise going to scale? How's Super Cruise going to scale from an economics perspective? Maybe there's more to the interview. We just don't have it. But those would be the kind of questions that whether you're enthusiast in the space or you're an investor in the space, you'd want to know the answer to. Can you economically scale? Yes or no?
Man, you make some fantastic points. So great points there. But and then the second one, of course, is that GM actually did invest in and owned Cruise, and they had to shut down Cruise because it had that major accident where it did. That's not alleged. It did drag that person. Sorry to laugh, but it did drag that person in an accident in San Francisco, and that caused. And then they shut down Cruise because they lied. The executive team lied to the regulators, and then that's why they had to turn it down. And then this is the guy in charge of Super Cruise, which is just highways. This is all it is. So,
Yeah.
okay. Again, but like you said earlier, right? The bigger story is these guys are trying to come out and defend themselves, say that they have something, and fight against Tesla as much as they can to change the public opinion. But of course, that is working. I mean, it still works when they say something about Teslas are dangerous. It's sad.
Yeah, I mean, just show the split screen of go test drive a GM with Super Cruise and say, take me to this address, and see what happens when you say, take me to this address, and show me the button I pressed in the vehicle where my car just takes off and starts driving to that address. And now show the split screen of the Tesla doing that. The lowest cost, by the way, the lowest cost Tesla you can buy, you can equip with, they all come with the latest hardware inside of them. So the lowest cost Tesla you can purchase and you can have full self-driving. It just doesn't exist. And I don't know why. I mean, these companies, I mean, with Tesla not marketing it, and that's a discussion that could be an own show right now, because it's getting to the point right now where FSD is so good, it's almost wrong not to drive awareness up on FSD. It's almost wrong to not meaningfully, impactfully drive awareness up. So we'll see what happens with that. But until then, you're going to have this reality distortion field where Ford is going to say Blue's Cruise is better than Tesla in FSD, even though go drive a Tesla with FSD 14.14 and draw your own conclusion. GM is going to say Super Cruise is better. Whatever anybody else names their lane keeping technology on highway, they're going to say, well, look, we don't have any accidents. Well, you shouldn't have any accidents with that. And by the way, if you had an accident, there's no reporting mechanism in your vehicle for anybody to ever know. It has to go through the manual process, go through police reporting. It's a much longer process for reporting. And I know there's fog in the cockpit in there on multiple vehicle platforms with that. But the point is in terms of contents, they're not shipping what Tesla is shipping. So if they want to put a safety record up, and by the way, and not talk about a major incident that occurred with their software acting as a robotaxi, I just think it's a bit disingenuous.
Yeah, totally true. I saw a stat, Holmar's catalog shared this, that today 0.1% of all miles being driven is on FSD. So it's just 0.1%. So we in the Tesla community, we watch all these FSD videos. We ourselves are testing it. So few people still. So obviously that's going to change. We will get more of that, but it's still only at 0.1%. So all these stories, they land. You know, they're on TV, they're on articles. They say Tesla's safety and ours is better. There's all that confusion still. But yeah, the number one thing is people need to try FSD, and we finally have, the institutional analysts are now testing it out. So New Street Research, which is Pierre Ferragu, they raised their Tesla price target to $520 from $465, maintaining a buy rating. Pierre he said he just tried version 14. I say balls on the walls. So he loves it. I was with Pierre at the We Robot event. We were standing together. We almost took a Cybercab together. And after that We Robot event in October, exactly a year ago today, right? October 10th. So a year, not exactly, but October last year. He was there. He understands Tesla. He asked good questions on the earnings calls, but then he lowered the price target. But only now, after trying version 14, does he raise the price target.
Yeah, I was surprised too when I saw him reduce his price target after We Robot. Again, this is just people not believing Tesla's going to execute. If you went to We Robot, you saw cybercabs pulling up, the doors opening, you can get in, or Tesla Model Ys, and you get in and you were being driven all over that studio campus. And you knew that Tesla was working on the real world version of that, and that was a smaller version of it to show people what a driverless experience can be like. and you knew Tesla was working on the real world version of that. And you either invested or you believed in that they were going to be able to progress and get there or not. And that's what this battle has been. It's been back and forth. Obviously, version 13 was released after that, and that was a big jump up from version 12, but there were still, warts on version 13, including how it responded in emergency situations, how it responded in various other conditions on the road. And you knew that there were use cases that had to be solved for. You needed a smarter model. You needed more intelligence in the software, but you saw Tesla steadily progressing and improving. You saw it entering into other countries. So I think this signal has been out there for some period of time that as these models got better, they had more training capability and they're able to increase the parameter count of what they can do in the vehicle, that combination would produce better driving, safer driving, more fluid driving, and like professional chauffeur. You felt like that convergence was happening of more training, more inference in the car, better driving experience. Like they have this combination. They have the engineering talent, they have their own chip, and they have training that they're doing on NVIDIA chips, but it's their software, and it's their software gluing all of this together. And you look at the other companies, and this is why Tesla has a 200x PE, because if you start going through those components of who has their own inference chip in the car that has that amount of that output in tokens for 100 watts, nobody. The answer is nobody. Nobody has that. Nobody has their own chip doing that in the vehicle. Then you ask the next question. Well, who has self-driving software that's going address to address and has their own software pulling that together, doing their own training, doing their own? The answer is nobody. Nobody has that. And so when people say, well, it's just an auto company, well, nobody just has the components that I described and the engineering talent. And you can't acquire those things in a very short period of time. This is the thing I think I see some analysts that are comparing FSD to the seatbelt. And like once the seatbelt was invented, everybody would get it in a couple, just soon after. Mm-hmm. This is not the seatbelt. This is not some just pure mechanical invention. This is unbelievably complex hardware on that chip. And you heard Elon talking about AI5 and where he sees AI5 going. And you see where he's spending his time. It's developing that chip and the efficiency and capability of that chip to get it to a price point. Nobody has that chip. Nobody has the software. Nobody has a training infrastructure. So when you see these interviews, you see this gentleman from GM being interviewed. Who's asking him, what's your training compute? What's your training capacity? Do you have your own inference chip? Are you developing it? Or if you don't, why do you need your own inference chip? Well, the economics are a lot better than paying NVIDIA 70% margin on it in perpetuity and then paying them a fee for all the software as well and development of that and being, one of 80 priorities for NVIDIA to develop versus, and you heard Elon talking about this I've been talking about this for 2 years, that when you're vertically integrated, you set your own priorities versus being on somebody else's list. And this is all playing out for Tesla. So Pierre increased his price target. You're seeing others now come in, and these are fairly dramatic price target increases. These aren't small. These are people going from the 300s to the 500s pretty quickly. And some of them are just playing pure catch up because of where the price action is. And I think they're going to be back at it, adjusting their price target, again, pretty soon.
You make some great points, and I think that is then, I hope a bunch of these institutional analysts are watching this show, and they have. They tell me that they do watch these shows. They need to ask the questions you just mentioned, because I think that these price targets that they've done is because they're realizing FSD is real and it's going to work for Tesla. What they don't know yet is the questions you're saying. They need to ask these questions because then they realize that there's no competitors. That debate of whether or not there are competitors coming soon or not, Asha Goswami did a dropped a video on YouTube where he explained all of the things Tesla's doing to accomplish what they're, full self-driving and robotaxi. And that's when you quickly realize, no, you can't just have NVIDIA have their own chip. You can't just have NVIDIA have their own simulation, world simulation. It's not real world simulation. So you can't just have, simulation will then resolve everybody and be able to do it. And then the sheer number of data that you need to have, the videos, to be able to solve all these edge cases, where are they going to do that? And does that take 3 to 6 months? And then we're caught up. Anyways, we're well into 4 months of robotaxi, and I still haven't seen another company, automaker come out and says, we've got it too.
Exactly. And this is, you have to understand what the lead is. You have to be able to describe what Tesla can sell to people right now. Like, what can people go buy? And then what is and based on what people can buy and how much Tesla sells it for, what kind of margins will Tesla have at scale once that service is at scale? And why will Tesla have those margins at scale? What did they do in hardware? What did they do with their own software? What did they do with their own chip? What did they do with the economics to get them to where they're at? And once you can think clearly and write that down on paper and answer those questions, you will realize that these other companies either need to organically create it themselves, and they've kept it the world's best secret of not buying compute, not developing their own chip, not acquiring these engineering resources to do this work. They've kept it the world's best secret, and they've just kept lane keeping on highways out there, but while telling everybody that they have some sort of self-driving suite. They've either kept it the world best secret, or they don't have it, and they're going to have to buy it. Because the time to make it yourself, that gap in time for them to organically make it themselves, if they're capable, there's a reason why there's only one company that's doing this right now, I think, at this scale, at these economics. People say, well, there's this robo-taxi service here, there's Baidu there. Look at the numbers, look at the scale, have them show you a balance sheet, have them show you what their future plans for scale are, and then ask Tesla the same questions and what they're doing. It's pretty clear what's happening, and it does come down to execution, but you've now experienced version 14.1.4, you've now seen that, okay, these kind of leaps happen as they add training capacity, as they add inference capability in the vehicle, which they have. What do you mean they add inference? The vehicles are processing more information than they did before. The parameter count is bigger. And you realize is that Tesla has more degrees of freedom to get this to a much safer than a human driving solution, and it's fully automated. And so that gap in time, so if a company started and organically created it, how many years would it take them? And could they even survive over those number of years when Tesla has the service at scale and all the people coming over and they're taking all that business? Could you even survive? Could your product even stand out there without FSD? So it's going to be this choice they're going to have to make. It's like that meme of the guy, he's sweating, he's got to push the 2 buttons. And the 2 buttons are going to be, do I license from Tesla or do I try to go my own? And if I press the wrong button, my company's done.
Mic drop. Fantastic. Thank you for that explanation. And you're just dead on there. I hope the people that need to be listening to the show heard what you just said. So this is Adam Jonas. Look what Adam Jonas from Morgan Stanley is saying now. Pretty important stuff. He said that he's calling it autonomous cars are solved. He said robotaxi seems to be getting solved faster than nearly anyone thought. Tesla's navigating a dignified exit from the steering wheel, having auto business while maintaining a resilient free cash flow profile. Going forward, Tesla is tied to Elon's ability to steal the fire on autonomy in the face of competition for Mag 7 and beyond. I don't know about stealing the fire on autonomy. There's no one else doing it except for Waymo. Maybe that's what he's referring to. So Morgan Stanley's Jonas declares robotaxi breakthrough. I'm calling it, this is the article. He said, I'm calling autonomous cars are solved. He wrote, comparing the moment to the advent of the steam engine. Perfection? Never, but enough to pull the safety driver at scale in major metros. It's a James Watt moment that changes transportation forever. He said that Tesla's third quarter results a potential inflection point, what he called 3 showstoppers that went largely unnoticed by the market. Among them was Elon's statement that Tesla expects to operate vehicles with no safety drivers in the car in Austin within a few months. Jones said such a move using a camera-only autonomous system would seriously challenge the conventional thinking of many in the robotaxi community. Thank you. The analyst believes Tesla's hesitation to remove safety drivers reflects internal caution rather than regulatory barriers. Thank you. This was self-done, not because they couldn't do it. There is no other explicit regulatory approval required to pull drivers in Texas. Could unlock autonomy from many other form factors of ANI-enabled robotics. This is just the beginning. This isn't just robotaxi. This isn't just humanoid bots. This is anything with a video camera. So this is what he said. And then he's now calculating how much revenue this is going to drive if everybody starts getting, the FSD subscription. And of course, there's robotaxi subscription as well. It might also, Elon said, it might also be too much intelligence for a car. Might get bored. So yeah, thoughts on
I think he really
Stanley's
captured what's happening. He's clearly experiencing FSD himself. He's clearly experienced robotaxi, and he's one of the rare, and there's a couple of them out there for sure that look at the technology and the impact it has on consumers, and then the underlying economics of it. Some analysts just look at, is there a robotaxi in the street? If there's a robotaxi in the street, then they're a competitor, and they're there. They've made it. Right. Tesla hasn't made it. They've made it. Meanwhile, that company could be running in the red for a decade, and it just gets ignored. That is bad analyst work. And there's nothing wrong with a new business starting at some form of a deficit for some period of time, and the time to break even, if it's known, it's understood. But the upfront capital that's involved in some of these robotaxi businesses, the way they're architected, the way they're designed, versus the upfront capital and the time to break even for Tesla, I think it's, I don't think it's close. And I think it's so dramatic that those companies are going to be forced to have to make an architectural decision so that they can bring down their upfront capital involved to deploy these things and get these services to scale. And finally, there's also this product factor too of, I come from the smartphone world. There are really good looking smartphones and there's really ugly ones. And you can't just be putting out some ugly looking product. Well, it's functional. It does everything. It's great. People want to be stepping in and out of a good looking, safe product. You look at the Cybercab, there is nothing like that silhouette that will be available in a robotaxi anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world. There's nothing that's like that. So Tesla's matching product and tech, design, industrial design, and tech, and it's all purpose-built. Franz and that team knew they had to work with engineering to cut the part count in half so the economics could work. The engineering team knew that they had to take mass out of the vehicle, but they had to meet this, futuristic looking aesthetic, and they both figured out a way to get there. Now, I think this thing's going to be fairly difficult to get started in production. I don't think it's going to be easy, but once they get through it, it's one of those things where once they figure it out, the floor and the cost, who knows where the floor is on the cost structure based on what volume they get to. But there's going to be this period where they just need to figure out how to make these panels, how to get unboxed at scale. It's going to be some period of time, but once they figure it out, it's going to be another step. It's going to be just different than making cars. So I think Adam is seeing this mosaic play out. It's changed too, right? Because his thesis had Dojo in it before it had all these other different things. But it was fairly clear what Tesla's very good at is pivoting. And I can't tell you how many R&D programs get kicked off inside of a company, especially a company that's going after so many new and different and just far outreaching pieces of technology, you're going to have a batting average. You're not going to, what we call bat 1,000, which means every time you're up there, you get a hit. It's not going to happen when you're reaching that far out and you're going after these things. So all these people that are being critical, I thought you said that Dojo was going to do this. And I thought, is any other company going after the kind of tech broadly in every single category that they participate in? They're not copying anybody. They're not trailing behind anybody. They are trying to figure it out at scale, at the right cost structure. And there's going to be hits, and there's going to be areas where they say, you know what? I don't think if I extrapolate where I'm going to be at the point of production, this isn't going to work. I'm going to cut it. And you saw the Dojo write-offs in Q3. That's what, unfortunately, those happen. But good companies try a lot of things and they cut them quickly. They fail quickly. And that's this whole thing about the pace of innovation or the pace of product development that Elon talks about. It's why it's so important.
Yeah, I like that you point out quite often you've been doing this. We see, I think, 11 different companies that are testing out robotaxi. They already got regulatory approval. They're already there. You've heard people like Gary Black say, yeah, Uber has partnerships with, he shows a slide of all these robotaxi partners. And they're well ahead. But these are prototypes. They have a bunch of prototypes. Okay, and they don't have the cost structure and the economics, as you pointed out. The thing I've been looking for is other than Zoox, I don't know any other company other than Zoox and Tesla that has created a vehicle, announced a vehicle, actually, producing it, that is robotaxi, designed first for robotaxi. And so, yes, even Waymo hasn't done that, and then the other companies have not. I'm shocked that they haven't. If they truly were going to do this in the future, that would be the first thing, even just a reveal. But here we have Tesla. In the show we did yesterday, they actually are hiring Cybercab production employees already. So Cantor Fitzgerald, another one, they raised their price tag to $510 from $355. This is a $155 price target increase. That's crazy. How do you raise it by $155? Like that's like $300 billion increase. Shepard highlighted that production for the Cybercab, Semi, and Megapack 3 remains on track for fiscal 26, which is what Tesla reported. Optimus production targeted for next year. Tesla also expects a notable increase in CapEx, right? So that's actually good news. They're projected at $9.2 billion for fiscal year 25, but I don't know where they got this number, but $12 billion for fiscal year 26. They are going full on, and they won't invest that because they're only investing that because they see these new businesses coming to fruition. The firm remains bullish on Tesla's medium to long-term prospects, upside potential from energy, FSD, robotaxi, semis, and Optimus. Again, I just love it when finally we got analysts referring to robotaxis and Optimus, which they never did before. FSD, robotaxi, and Optimus. We just went through that. And then this one here is very cool, interesting. Daniel Sparks. Wow. He's a 5-star investor. He's actually talking about how Tesla's self-driving tech is poised to significantly contribute to earnings. So what I like about that is that, a lot of these institutional analysts, they're all about earnings. Well, here we go. We finally have somebody saying, actually, FSD, it works, and it's going to materially increase adoption, and that's going to materially increase earnings. And then finally, we have Daiwa Capital. They raised their Tesla price target to $420 from $300.
Yeah, these are
Thoughts
big moves, and they haven't seen 14.14 because it just came out over the weekend. And I think this is the first version of 14 that is, I would say, mass consumable. And all these analysts need to get in a car. They need to get in a Tesla today with 14.14. Yeah. And they're already bullish. These analysts have basically, from the earnings call, they've probably tried version 13, and they heard the company on the analyst call basically like, we're confident in what we're doing. I wish in the earnings call they would have let out with this 8 to 10 cities by the end of the year. I mean, this took years for the next highest or the highest robotaxi service in the US. This took them over 4 years to get to this number of cities in terms of deployment, and Tesla's doing it in 6 months. So if you're an analyst and you're talking about the acceleration of money coming into the business and then the acceleration of earnings inside of a business based on how a product is constructed and what people are willing to pay for it, you connect those things together, there's massive acceleration of Tesla if they deliver this inside of 6 months. What if they do it in 8 months? So what? It's massive acceleration off of the next thing that took nearly 5 years to the next service. It took 5 years to get to this number of cities. That acceleration factor right there should tell them that, I think that, by the way, I think that is driving a lot of the upgrades. And I think the strong quarter is as well. But I think Tesla clearly showed that they can connect their existing business to their future business. And none of these analysts have tried version 14 yet. So if they try 14.1.4, I mean, to me, this wave of analysts going to around 500, like they're catching up with where the stock is going. And I think these price targets are basically, okay, they're going to figure out robotaxi. And this kind of gets it into the $500 to $700 range. And I think to go well above that, I don't like to go precise what numbers, but basically to have, go from 3 digits to 4 digits in the stock price, I think that's where Optimus comes in. But I think there's a lot of room to run once analysts and people, enthusiasts, realize that they've solved autonomy for personal vehicle use, and they've solved it now for fleet use with robotaxi.
One day I'd like to ask you the question of how to roll out products and how different companies have done it. I know you've done this significantly globally. And so we keep pointing out that when you see these other companies, they rolled out products and they're first. Look at me, I've got a self-driving car. It's regulatory approved. But they're really more of a prototype. They're more like, yeah, I created this one car, cobbled together, put it there, and I've got like 10 of them. I've got 100 of them, and they're there. But they have no ability to scale to other jurisdictions that they didn't previously. They spend months to map and to HD map and to have a LiDAR trapped. It really is a Disneyland on, closed loop kind of scenario. Versus Tesla, who said, I'm gonna get all the data I need. I'm gonna get the right tech, and then when I roll this out, it's gonna be a bit global. This thing is gonna work any location from any point A to any point B. It takes longer to get your first one out, but then it's gonna be fast because I'm driving it in Washington State. You're doing it in Chicago, and we're like seeing intervention-free drives, and it's pretty well.
Yeah, and there's things that these companies don't talk about that. People they should be aware of. One of the things that limits the volume of these services, like why doesn't a company have 10,000 robotaxis out in a city? If it's just every robotaxi, you're booking fares and making money. Well, one company hasn't told you when they're even going to have a profitable business. So that's a limiter on the volume. But the more they put out, maybe the more they're actually in the red. But the other thing is the safety piece of it, and it's the probability of an incident. And as you see now, the society is going through this transition of normal like yellow cabs and just even dealing with Uber and people driving you in an Uber. And now the landscape is going to be these things driving either with a steering wheel or without a steering wheel inside. There's nobody in the driver's seat. That's still strange for 99% of the cities and people in the United States to see. And what you can't have is you can't just blanket the world with these things. And if accidents start, the more you put out there and based on your own performance of your own system, the probability of an accident goes up. So what you can't have is you can't have a lack of acceptance by society, and you can't have the product out there in ever increasing volumes without that acceptance. That acceptance is starting to happen, especially in the early cities, that these things went out there. That is happening. Now people just use these things all the time. So what Tesla has to do is Tesla could put a lot more vehicles out. But what all these companies are doing, they're looking at the data and say, my probability of incidents is X, and my sensitivity to an incident in ppm is Y, ppm, parts per million, or you can say units per million. But what people are trying to do is they're trying to understand and they're trying to get their product to be socially accepted as well as regulatory accepted. And they're two different things. You want people to get used to these things, and you want people to say, like, wow, these things are actually safer than some half asleep driver, which I don't know if they're sleeping or not, picking me up at 1 a.m. I'd rather be picked up by a computer and driven by a computer. Society isn't there yet, but once it's there, and once these systems are at that safety level, then they just take off. And what's nice about Tesla is we know the economics of like when they're there, when all those things are happening, society accepts it, and the safety level is there, that their volume can just go through the roof. Others, the question is do they have the underlying economics to be able to do that?
Oh, I love that you keep repeating that. You have been for the last 6 months, a year. Hopefully analysts are hearing it. Anyways, it's a good thing. Adam Jonas, first, always, he's kind of the leader for the other analysts. And he said, I'm calling it autonomous cars are solved. So hopefully the rest understand that it is solved. We are experiencing it daily. Right after this, I'm going to go and drive FSD version 14.1.4, and we'll see how this works out. Hopefully everything is improved better. Thank you, Jeff. Follow him on his X account at the Jeff Lutz. Subscribe to him there as well. This is the genius that you're getting. Thank you, Jeff. We do appreciate you spending time with us. I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.